let's look at where are some of these sources of the data breaches are coming from, right? So most of these DICOM servers are all connected. So essentially, images are created and stored in this PACS server, and then they need to be accessed, one by your radiologist, one by your referring physicians, and one by your patient. And then there are so many other providers who want access to these images for billing purposes, for treatment purposes, and for operation purposes and stuff, right? So then if they need to be accessed, of course they need to be connected. If they are connected, then obviously they have some kind of cyber vulnerabilities. That's what we are talking about. Once the machine is connected, that means then you do have some kind of vulnerability that are introduced into the system. And of course, like the human error always happens, like when you're configuring the server, when you're putting some of these machines into your network. Obviously, like you are not configuring using the best practices, you are just implementing it from operational point of view. So it from security point of view, like you are not configuring these machines. And then that third one here is like very interesting one. So most of these medical devices are produced by a few vendors in the industry, and they all use pretty standard images to create the machines, and then like they either use some kind of a open source Linux based operating systems or like Windows based. And then so what happens is like these weaknesses are very well published, like whether you're running a Windows 8 or Windows 10 system, most of the vulnerabilities that are in there with the operating system patch version that you're running on, that is all well published. So it's very easy for anybody who's interested in hacking into the servers. It's very easy for them to go and look at like what are the vulnerabilities and then exploit that, right? That is where like I think like some of our recommendation in our recommendation sections you would see we specifically talking about patching some of these systems, working with your vendors to patching them and stuff. And then the fourth thing, if you see the ports for the packs, so those are like some of the, they are using pretty much the standard ports that are publicized port numbers for the server. Like if I have a scanner and if I have the list of IP addresses, that's how like the servers are recognized, right? So just like you and I have a name to represent, so the servers are represented by some kind of IP address. If I have the IP address, if I use a scanner to scan, and the scanner kind of spits out all the ports that are open, or essentially what it says is the communication that could happen via these port numbers and stuff. And then what essentially it means is if I have the port number and if the systems are not secured properly, so that I can pretty much exploit the vulnerabilities that are open in the server, right? And the next one is the downloadable, easily downloadable files. So as we saw in the earlier slide, so most of these images are created with .dcm extension, and these files essentially, whether you use your browser to view them or like plug in to view them or like any kind of specialized software, so these files are downloadable easily. So what it means is like anybody could read that file if they have a simple viewer for viewing the DCM image. Those are not encrypted most of the times, right? So that is another issue with the sources of the data breach. And then also the DICOM images are layered. So what we mean by that is, so they do have some standards in terms of the DICOM files that are getting generated to create the patient-specific information, whether the reference number or the record number that associates that particular image with with a patient, and also like to add some tags very specific to the patient and thing. So those images are layered, and then like you do have provision to capture those information as part of this file itself, right? So essentially you have some patient specific information plus the pixel the images, right? So that kind of pretty much constitutes the DICOM file. So you do have this information layered into this DICOM images, and then that's since it's easily viewable, so you run into again an issue of data breach, right? The doctors at PHI, that I think that is happening pretty much everywhere. Like it could be due to poor training or operational efficiency and whatnot. Doctor adds some additional information when they read this images and store that information along with this image file, right? And then the last one, of course, I think that's something like across the board in the healthcare industry, we need to have patient-first approach in terms of protecting data. Right now, like most of the providers, most of the staff, they are looking at from the operational perspective. So those are like some of the the key items that we think are like kind of the sources for data breach.
For more information, click on the link below or visit databrackets.com.